Alright, welcome back YouTube to Porcelain's Fun Factory. Today we're going to try to wrap up our frame progress here.
Well, it looks like we have a problem.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Trying to figure out what fork we're going to run on this thing. And the RockShox head tube is too big. That one's ugly. So, that's coming off.
We were working on getting rid of this. We used Evaporust and
Hopefully 5 gallons is enough.
and Rusoleum gel. Oh gosh, that stuff. Rust dissolver.
So, we sprayed some of this on a toothbrush and then rubbed it all over the...
At some point. This frame is looking really good, and we need to find a way to protect it from rusting back up again. So that's our goal here. I want to do a little bit of touch-up paint and maybe clear coat the heck out of it. So let's do that. Oh, dropped it. It's pretty dirty from our Klunker tour. Oh, dropped another thing. Nasty rag to clean up the grease here. This will be one we use to clean up the body of the frame tube at some point. Just don't want to have to mess with deal with the mess. Grease mostly cleaned up. We're gonna wait on cleaning this up. Let's get this clunker back together too. Clean up the bearings and the fork before I put it on, and these bearings, maybe if you remember seeing them, were just surface rust to heck. They look quite a bit better, but they need lube still, so that's the next step, and then the fork on. Ew. And the little barrel came off. Bummer. Inside of there. Find a better brake system for this. Clearly I can't use those V-brakes anymore, but until then these rattle when you ride it, so we're just gonna rubber band them up just to try to save some noise if I ever get back onto the trail with this thing and you guys. So here they are. Clean down just with some scrappy spray and just to get the dirt and nastiness off of it. And then we'll take and also rust dissolve the rusty spots on this tube. So
hopefully cleaned up as good as all the rest did. That frame looks worlds different than it did prior to us cleaning it up. In our first two videos, again we evaporusted, framed up a box and dropped the frame into Evaporust. Lost a bunch of it, but that's okay. And then we also rust dissolved, which we're going to be doing with this in just a moment also. So trying to get as much goop and gunk off of here so that rust dissolver can do a bunch of work. And I'll show you the roughest spot. Alright, there.
So non-drive side of the fork. Looked like it'd been leaning up against a bunch of stuff quite a bit. And there are a little, kind of, there's a big chunk of rust there. Also on the drive side of the fork. Alright, this process, we're just going to squirt a little bit of this rust dissolver onto this brush. It's the same brush that I've been using. You see it kind of leak down into there. And we're just going to rub it onto the affected areas, nice and thick, so it can kind of eat away at that rust. And that will eat away at that as we're waiting. It says on the container about a half an hour, but I found that you can leave it on much longer and it doesn't really affect the paint too much, so no big deal either. And since it's a sprayed gel, it's kind of nice. You can only like get it onto what you want. You don't have to do the whole frame, but every spot that has a little rust, if you want to get rid of it, this will do it quite well. And we're going to leave that sit. Even we have looks like a cable rub spot almost there. A couple little chips that we just want to make sure are clear. And see if this fork comes out as good as the frame. Quick little check in here. You're seeing that was that really rusty spot here. It's looking quite a bit better. But over here where it was quite a bit thinner is definitely cleared up quite heavily so far. So I'm just gonna let it keep going. Quick little update here. It's the next day and we're finally seeing after a couple coats on here that the rust is starting to diminish quite a bit. So if there's a little bit too much light here, hopefully it's this portion, which was not very dense rust, it was more surface rust, is cleaned up quite a bit. And then over on this side here, I'm trying real hard to get that rust to kind of go away too. So over on this part, there was a little rust over kind of the dropout on the fork here, and that's starting to go away also. And of course, here also too. I'm trying to get rid of as much as possible, make this frame and fork look really good. While we're waiting for that fork to get taken care of with the rust dissolver, we're gonna actually start clear coating the frame. I gotta hang it up. I'm down in my basement. My garage is just too cold. And we're gonna hang this right about here above my sink where I don't really care what happens. And then, of course, get a clear coat on it. I said earlier that I was gonna maybe try to touch up the paint, and I decided I'm just gonna leave it. It kind of tells a story about how this bike was treated before I got it, so hopefully it turns out pretty well. So, and my dog's attacking nothing at the door. Darn dog. Let's get it hung up. Quick little wipe down just to get rid of any oils or anything with just disinfecting spray, nothing special. Just to try to get rid of anything that might keep it from adhering well. Let it dry and then get started spraying.
12 seconds later.
So here we are, coated, and maybe if you were watching, it does not lay the greatest, and I do have runs, but at least it's going to protect it pretty well. So it's okay with me. I forgot to tape off but I didn't hit them to the V-brake braze-ons, and everything else I should be able to clean up pretty well, so should be all good. Let's let it dry off. I will say, doing this in your basement sucks because it makes your house smell pretty bad, but could be worse, I guess. Let's also grab our fork. You'll see here that it clearly looks quite a bit better. We got a little layer of gunk here that we have to clean off, but looking a little bit better in that area for sure. Not so much up in here and here, but I don't know, much better than prior. So let's grab that thing out of the stand and go clean it up. A little bit more of this cheap disinfectant spray, just trying to prep it for clear coat. This up here is layered in grease yet. And the hand too. Yeah. What do you got to do to get there? There for spray. Maybe this time I shouldn't forget to take off the parts that need it. Check out that. That was thick rust before. I did also scrape it with a screwdriver and then reapply, but I maybe should have done that here too. A little bit thick there still yet. This fork looks worlds better, just like the frame did than it used to, so can't be mad about that. Can't tell if it's slimy or if it's just my hands. A little bit of tape on real quick. Okay, forgot to do with the frame, which is right there. Looks so good compared to what it was, now all freshly clear coated. So let's try to save on these a little bit. Just some crappy clear that's sitting around. Right over those decals. Straighten that. I probably should have hooked it the other way. Put a couple layers on the really nasty areas. Just kind of really protect those to try to keep them from rusting nice and. But she's gonna be shiny. We're gonna have the patina. Gonna look good. Look at that.
Oh my gosh!
Beautiful green. Alright, we have our frame and our fork all coated up with our clear coat to protect the rust and the crust and all of the other whatnot. We gotta clean up this fork and then we're gonna put the headset on, possibly the bottom bracket. Let's do it. We actually got around taping these off on this. Frame we didn't, but we'll take some sandpaper or something to clean it up.
Alright. Nice and clean. And coat it up.
The spot that was really rusty is nice and smooth and pretty. Pretty. Looks good. So our bottom cup is kind of gross. We're going to steel wool that after we clean out of the gunk out of it quick. Top one actually looks real nice. A little bit there, but not too bad. Clean those up as best we can anyways. And there's some stuff that just kind of sticks in there pretty good, so we have to use some sort of degreaser or screwdriver. Get most of the gunk out. Maybe the rest will pull up. That grease that sits for a really long period of time is kind of hard to get out sometimes. A little wipe with the rag after cleaning it out, and it's good to go. Good enough. Good enough for who it's for. Who's that on YouTube? Quick little polish with some steel wool, just to kind of make it look a little bit better. Probably should have treated this with some of that Rusoleum rust dissolver, but I think that kind of takes the chrome off too, I imagine. So we're going to leave it this time, just clean it up. This rust will probably come back if any water gets in it, but it is what it is. This looks shinier. Looks better. Another one. Good to go. Get that on there in a second. We got top cup. And then we got to flip our frame there. We have our bottom cup. And our cups are in. Looking good, making progress. Some bearings. I will say these bearings, just from being in the other bike, the Klunker, they got kind of dirty, but we're going to overpack it again, just so we can make sure that we're good to go on grease. Rather have a little too much than not enough. So the bearings that came out of the Klunker, you may have seen me replace those, but these are kind of nice to make sure you have a lot of grease, because that's better. You always wipe it up, clean it up. Got a bunch in there, nice and smooth. I'm gonna actually wipe up some of this and put it right into here. A little bit more grease. Maybe overdoing it a little bit, but that's okay. A little bit on the threads, just a little though. Should find a strap to kind of make this stay up and in there, but I gotta wipe some of this grease off my finger. And then let's get our stuff set up. This is that weird headset that's supposed to have a little spring deal in it, and maybe this time we'll be able to figure it out. Supposed to constantly push and make this turn so the bearings stay tight. I'm half tempted to do it. We'll try it out again here. So let's see if we can make it happen. This spring is kind of like a recoil. Slides into that slot, and then it's supposed to constantly turn that tighter. I'll find a way to get that down there. Here she goes. Want it down in there. It's constantly putting pressure on it now. No play in the headset. I can feel just yet anyway. Dust cap, almost is what it's like. Goes down over the top. Keeps all the dirt from getting into those bearings. A little tight, but hopefully she wears in. Looking good. All set up again. So we're going to run these brakes on here. It came off of it. You can always turn backwards on the threads if you don't feel it lining up right. And just slip away from that grease. Let's get over there. Alright. That's good. Might as well set these up quick too. Sometimes you got some finagling to do here. We also gotta find our springs. Looks like the bolt fell out. Something like that. Springs. Oh, dropped it. Quickly clean down, just with some steel wool, just to make sure they function really well. And of course, a little bit of grease. Springs. And one way to put them on. So, only one setting on this fork. Must be an early mountain bike. Go backwards if you need to. Get the threads lined up right. It doesn't really click in like the other did. Our tools. Ooh. We're gonna put this bottom bracket in. I cleaned up these bearings a little bit, but we're gonna grease the crap out of them. Quick reminder, the writing, which is a little corroded, but you want to be able to read the writing if you're sitting on the bike. Not to mention this one's much longer on the side, the drive side, than the non-drive side, so keep an eye out on that stuff there. And in our bottom bracket area, it's pretty gross to be honest, but that's okay. Hopefully it becomes a little bit better with use. And I didn't tape those off, so I'm hoping that the threads didn't get too clunked up with that clear coat that we sprayed on. So here's to fingers crossed. Yeah, is that enough? Same thing down here. A little bit. Much is better than not enough in my opinion. There we go, just left it. So this is before cleaning here. Definitely needs way more lubrication in there. But cleaned up with a rag. I'm not going to get everything with a rag, but it looks a heck of a lot better. And then that'll allow that fresh grease to get down in the bearing. And also have to clean up the bearing with a rag, or the cup. It's loaded full of grease. Oops, too much. It'll be fine. One of those guys. I've said it a lot of times. And our bearing, of course. Try to get some back into the back here. You want to be snug so there's no side to side play, but you also at the same time don't want to be able to feel the bearings. Yeah, see, that's not tight enough. Almost looks like it's bent a little bit too. Find a happy medium and try to be happy with it. Out just right. Alright, a little update. We got our fork on, headset all set up, front brakes. Now, let's turn our attention to the rear brakes. Give these a quick little cleanup. And sandpaper would do just fine. It's looking like I didn't get so much clear coat on these that I have to use sandpaper, so that's kind of nice. That's too much. Only one setting on these, kind of nice.
Making progress.
Alright YouTube, you can see we got a little bit of work done with our frame and our fork, and brakes put on, bottom bracket put together. Next time you see this frame, we're going to be building it up the rest of the way with hopefully some cool parts. I don't know exactly what we're going to do just yet, but I wanted to protect this beautiful color as you see it now. Prior to this it was pretty gross. Go back to that series up in this corner, and you're more than welcome to watch what we've done with this frame to protect it to this point. In moving on, we're not going to be doing much with the frame other than adding parts to it, so that'll be kind of more of a build series rather than a frame protection series. So awesome. See you next time.